Teachers Union Sadtu has raised concerns over what it believes is a lack of education at schools about the COVID-19 coronavirus. Grayston Preparatory School north of Johannesburg was closed for the day yesterday following reports that one of the educators had been in contact with a person who had tested positive for the virus. Now a total of 7 pupils, 6 in KwaZulu-Natal and 1 in Gauteng, have been confirmed as having coronavirus here in the country. Xolani Fakude is Sadtu's secretariat officer and he joins me now live in studio to take the discussion further. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good afternoon, the viewers as well.
Thank you so much indeed for your time. So what are you concerned about specifically on coronavirus as Sadtu?
Well, we believe as a union in education that perhaps we're not applying the necessary agency in terms of dealing with this pandemic. Now, we say that we say this with caution. We are saying it being fully aware of the fact that we do not want also to be driving a panic narrative. However, what we are saying is that from a campaign point of view, this is an unusual situation and therefore it requires an unusual intervention.
What intervention are you referring to? What would you have liked the department to have done in this regard?
For starters, we would have preferred that by now, for instance, we should be having all the ABCs in all the schools in terms of coronavirus. We should be having the early warning systems in terms of coronavirus. But we are still sitting in a position whereby we are still going to be having meetings, and we're saying that perhaps we should have done that. But then right now, it is not the time for the blame game. What we want to emphasize on is that let us move forward, let us collaborate, and you bring the educators on board in terms of especially the ABCs, the early warning systems.
So are you saying that your members do not know anything as it is now about coronavirus, despite what perhaps they've been picking from the media and hearing on the news?
Well, there has not been a formal approach as yet which involves the union. That has not happened as far as we're concerned.
Right.
Now, we are aware as well that plans are already in motion as led by the Department of Basic Education. That will include or rather involve all multiple stakeholders to sit down in one common place and agree as to how we can deal with this issue moving forward.
All right. So when were you made aware of that meeting? That's to take place?
Well, we're made aware. Well, the issue here is that we're busy right now dealing with administrative processes. So yes, the intention is there because we all do accept the very fact that we do need to sit down and agree. I mean, for instance, you were referring earlier to the Grayston issue. I mean, a school was closed, but then there is protocol that needs to be dealt with. But then the question is, who then knows that protocol? What kind of protocol is that? Have we done enough to go down to the ground and inform all the educators, inform learners, inform school management teams and SGPs about this protocol, for instance?
Yeah, I wanted to get your take really on that, seeing schools shutting down for a day perhaps as precautionary measures. What's your take on that as Sadtu? Because you have the minister who believes that that's not necessarily a solution to the problem.
Yeah, but then the minister then must tell us then what is the solution. And that is where Sadtu is coming from. We are saying that we appreciate the fact that there will always be protocols in terms of how you manage the opening and closing of schools. And we accept that, we appreciate that. For instance, we know, in as far as the corona pandemic is concerned, that the lead department is the Department of Health. But in our case, the Department of Basic Education is also our employer. It is the one that must ensure an optimal learning and teaching environment. So what we are saying, for instance, is that then the minister, if is not necessarily impressed, then tell us then what should have happened, which is where we're coming from. That is why we're talking of a campaign approach to heighten the awareness of all the stakeholders, of the school communities. That is what we're saying.
All right. So one of the precautionary measures whilst dealing with coronavirus is to ensure that one's hands are washed, not just washed, but properly washed. And that, of course, requires soap or sanitizers. Do we have enough of those resources at our schools?
That is a serious concern. As much as we've been speaking about infrastructure for many years, and we're saying that there might still be some deficiencies in terms of the supply of the necessary sanitary implements. And that is why we're also calling for all the stakeholders, be it the circuit offices, be it the school managers, school principals, be it the teachers, be it the government. We're saying that let's also ensure that the necessary implements that we need are also there within the school environments.
All right, but what are you picking from your members on the ground? Are they having enough resources to deal with this matter? Because I do know that some schools have requested learners to bring sanitizers from home.
Well, concern is what is being expressed by our members. we know for a fact that they are heavily concerned. And that is why we are also saying as Sadtu that let us then go ahead and move on with an awareness campaign, an aggressive awareness campaign for that matter, because they are concerned. They are saying they would also love to know that how to react should there be a case. And we're saying that let us be empowered, both learners and teachers, to deal with any eventuality.
All right, so what happens going forward? Because we understand that COSATU as well is also calling on government, business and labor to meet at NETLEC to really have a response to this issue.
Well, what we are calling for right now is the emergency meetings. That is what we're saying, the multi-stakeholder emergency meetings. So from here moving forward, we are in, as we speak right now, we're busy engaging the Department of Basic Education. We'll continue to do that. We know that within the next few days, there will be a multiple stakeholder meeting. We are going to sit there. We're going to call on the government to establish this learning material that we need for the schooling communities.
All right, and what else are you looking for? The learning material, of course, you need the necessary resources to deal with this matter, and what else?
Well, that for us, that is what is important. Let us ensure that the learning material is there. And let us also ensure that the necessary implements, like I keep on emphasizing, are there. The sanitary implements that we require are there. That is what we require. And then we'll be able to deal with this pandemic quite effectively. All
right, Xolani, time constraints. We have to leave it at this, but thank you so much for coming through. Hopefully we'll know of the outcomes of those meetings that you're talking about.
Definitely, certainly.
All right, Xolani Fakude is Sadtu's secretariat officer, joining us now live, really raising their concerns as the teachers union over what they believe is a lack of education at schools about the COVID-19 coronavirus.